A particularly beautiful woman is a source of terror. As a rule, a beautiful woman is a terrible disappointment. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. One looks back with appreciation to the brilliant teachers, but with gratitude to those who touched our human feelings. The curriculum is so much necessary raw material, but warmth is the vital element for the growing plant and for the soul of the child. We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. Where love rules, there is no will to power. And where power predominates, there love is lacking. The one is the shadow of the other. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. It is far better take things as they come along with patience and equanimity. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. The word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. It all depends on how we look at things, and not how they are in themselves. When an inner situation is not made conscious, it appears outside as fate. Children are educated by what the grown-up is and not by his talk. The healthy man does not torture others. Generally, it is the tortured who turn into torturers. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity. The creative mind plays with the objects it loves. Knowledge rests not upon truth alone, but upon error also. There is no such thing as a pure introvert or extrovert. Such a person would be in the lunatic asylum. The collective unconscious consists of the sum of the instincts and their correlates, the archetypes. Just as everybody possesses instincts, so he also possesses a stock of archetypal images. There is no birth of consciousness without pain. Every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol or morphine or idealism. Through pride, we are ever deceiving ourselves. But deep down below the surface of the average conscience, a still, small voice says to us, something is out of tune. We are born at a given moment, in a given place, and, like vintage years of wine, we have the qualities of the year and of the season of which we are born. Astrology does not lay claim to anything more. The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. I have treated many hundreds of patients. Among those in the second half of life, that is to say, Over 35, there has not been one whose problem in the last resort was not that of finding a religious outlook on life. Show me a sane man, and I will cure him for you. We should not pretend to understand the world only by the intellect. The judgment of the intellect is only part of the truth. The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. The pendulum of the mind alternates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong. A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them. Man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health. If there is anything that we wish to change in the child, we should first examine it and see whether it is not something that could better be changed in ourselves. A human being would certainly not grow to be 70 or 80 years old if this longevity had no meaning for the species. The afternoon of human life must also have a significance of its own and cannot be merely a pitiful appendage to life's morning. Follow that will and that way which experience confirms to be your own. Often the hands will solve a mystery that the intellect has struggled with in vain. The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. If one does not understand a person, one tends to regard him as a fool. The most intense conflicts, if overcome, leave behind a sense of security and calm that is not easily disturbed. It is just these intense conflicts and their conflagration which are needed to produce valuable and lasting results. For a young person, it is almost a sin, or at least a danger, to be too preoccupied with himself. But for the aging person, it is a duty and a necessity to devote serious attention to himself. The Christian missionary may preach the gospel to the poor naked heathen, but the spiritual heathen who populate Europe have as yet heard nothing of Christianity. Nobody, as long as he moves about among the chaotic currents of life, is without trouble. Neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. Who has fully realized that history is not contained in thick books but lives in our very blood? The debt we owe to the play of imagination is incalculable. Resistance to the organized mass can be effected only by the man who is as well organized in his individuality as the mass itself. All the works of man have their origin in creative fantasy. What right have we then to depreciate imagination? Man's task is to become conscious of the contents that press upward from the unconscious. A psychoneurosis must be understood, ultimately, as the suffering of a soul which has not discovered its meaning. The man who promises everything is sure to fulfill nothing, and everyone who promises too much is in danger of using evil means in order to carry out his promises, and is already on the road to perdition. We shall probably get nearest to the truth if we think of the conscious and personal psyche as resting upon the broad basis of an inherited and universal psychic disposition, which is as such unconscious, and that our personal psyche bears the same relation to the collective psyche as the individual to society. We deem those happy who from the experience of life have learned to bear its ills without being overcome by them. Masses are always breeding grounds of psychic epidemics. Mistakes are, after all, the foundations of truth, and if a man does not know what a thing is, it is at least an increase in knowledge if he knows what it is not. Everyone knows nowadays that people have complexes. What is not so well known, though far more important theoretically, is that complexes can have us. The word belief is a difficult thing for me. I don't believe. I must have a reason for a certain hypothesis. Either I know a thing, and then I know it. I don't need to believe it. It is a fact that cannot be denied. The wickedness of others becomes our own wickedness because it kindles something evil in our own hearts.